What's up, my friends in the film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching? Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. Time to get into the deep Christmassy shit. One of the great Christmas movies ever made. No, it's not It's a Wonderful Life. No, it's not Miracle on 34th Street. Who needs that bullshit Christmas movie nonsense when you can have a real classic starring a real great comedian? And then it's Scrooged. Here to talk about it with me today are my amazing co-hosts, starting with the Dowager Countess Lady Cora. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I just realized how screwed up my whole camera angle is because I knocked it earlier with my phone. I set all that up. Hey, now you guys have a better look at my sexiness right here. And then, of course, the shape from the Lone Star State, our man Tex. What's up, brother?
You know, Indiana Jones is going to be pissed when he finds out Bankman is trying to steal his old lady. That's all I know. Like, this is going to be problematic. I don't that fight, but I got my money's on Indy, even though Bankman has the technology. So
yeah, but
I'm not sure.
Indy's 200 years old. What's he really going to do?
Oh, that's true. Well, yeah.
He's been shot 9 times. Does he want to go for number 10?
Just saying, Indy needs to watch that old lady. She's out there in the funny business. You know what I mean?
She is. Jeremy not able to be with us tonight. He's got some planning going on. There's busy times ahead for him, obviously. So he will be back on Thursday. At least that's what he said. So we look forward to having him back on Thursday. Until then, we love you, buddy. Keep on doing what you're doing. But yeah, let's get into it right now. And we are, of course, talking about Scrooged. It is the 1988 American Christmas fantasy comedy film directed by Richard Donner and written by Mitch Glazer and Michael O'Donoghue. It's based on the 1843 novella A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, one of the many iterations of on film of this book. Scrooge is a modern retelling that follows Bill Murray as Frank Cross, a cynical and selfish television executive who is visited by a succession of ghosts on Christmas Eve, intent on helping him regain his Christmas spirit. The film also stars Karen Allen, John Forsythe, Bobcat Goldthwait, Carol Kane, Robert Mitchum, Michael J. Pollard, and Alfre Woodard. Scrooge was filmed on a $32 million budget over 3 months in New York City and Hollywood from December of 87 to March of 88. Murray returned to acting for the film after taking a 4-year hiatus following the success of Ghostbusters, which he found overwhelming. Murray worked with Glazer and O'Donoghue on reworking the script before agreeing to join the project. The production was tumultuous, to say the least, as Murray and Donner had different visions for the film. Murray described his time in the film as misery, while Donner called Murray a, quote, superbly creative but occasionally difficult person. Along with Murray's 3 brothers, Brian, John, and Joel, Scrooge features numerous celebrity cameos. The film's marketing capitalized on Murray's Ghostbusters role, referring to his encounters with ghosts in both films. Scrooge was released on November 23rd of 88 and grossed over $100 million worldwide. The film received a positive response from test audiences, but was met with a mixed response upon its release from critics who found the film either too mean-spirited or too sentimental. That's very different ends of the spectrum there. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Makeup, but would lose it to the fantasy comedy film Beetlejuice. Since its release, Scrooge has become a regular television Christmas time feature, with some critics calling it an alternative to traditional Christmas films, and others arguing that Scrooge was way ahead of its time, making it relevant in the modern day. And it has appeared on various lists of best Christmas films. Rotten Tomato offers a score of 71% based on 51 reviews, with an average rating of 6.1 out of 10. And it provides the consensus review that says, quote, Scrooge gets by with Bill Murray and a dash of holiday spirit, although it's hampered by markedly conflicted tone and an undercurrent of mean-spiritedness. I don't know. I'll go to you first, Tex. Give me some brief thoughts of what you think of Scrooge. Do you think that's a fair assessment of this in their consensus review?
Yeah, this was the first time watch for me. I had never seen this one before. I didn't even know this one existed until he said, oh, hey, we're going to watch this movie called Scrooge. I'm like, oh, okay. Sounds like a Christmas movie. Awesome. So I watched it for the first time. And that was, it's Bill Murray in A Christmas Carol. That was kind of my initial reaction. Would I say this is one of the greatest Christmas movies? I don't know about that. But it had its entertaining moments for me. And of course, we'll get into that as we break this down. But, it was, overall, I'm not a Christmas Carol guy. So, I was kind of with it at times. But I love when Bill Murray is asshole Bill Murray. That is the best version of Bill Murray that you can ever get on screen. That's peak funny Bill Murray right there. So I really like those parts.
Yeah, I don't know. Cora, what do you think? Give me some quick thoughts on Scrooge before we dive into all the spoiler stuff.
I love it. It's one of those movies that keeps you the Christmas spirit, but takes you out of the stereotypical, puts you to sleep stuff. Because if you've never seen it before, it keeps you on your toes. To me, it's it's a good show, and I liked it, and I've loved it, and the '80s, man, you can't go wrong.
Well, I mean, you could go wrong, but there was so much good that came out, it kind of buried the kind of shitty stuff. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, that's true.
There was an abundance of entertainment in the 80s. The good stuff really shows through, but the bad stuff is all kind of hidden. You know what I mean? But, first, let's talk about Richard Donner kind of as a director. Obviously, the guy's body of work, and of course, he passed away in, I think, 2021, I believe, from heart complications, stuff like that. He was 90-something, so the guy had done it for a while. A long history, so many movies that, I could name them all off that are fantastic. I know, Tex, you've probably seen one or two of his movies. He definitely had his toe in the pool of horror as well. What do you think of Richard Donner as a director, Tex? He got so many great movies. The original Spider-Man, Goonies, the Lethal Weapon movies. His involvement in TV. What do you think of Richard Donner as a filmmaker?
Well, Superman. Christopher Reeve. You could just throw that out there. One of the godfathers of the superhero genre. If it wasn't for that film, none of these others would be here. Lethal Weapon, of course. That's crazy. Mel Gibson is awesome. Mel Gibson, like that. I love the original Lethal Weapon. Richard Donner's done a lot of cool stuff in his career. He's one of those names that's just always around. He's always been there, especially in this time period. He was like one of the guys of that era, and he does have a reputation for being kind of hard to work with. Was it Superman 2 that they had to do the Donner cut to, or was it Superman 1? I can't remember.
It was. They actually filmed 1 and 2 kind of simultaneously, and after 1 got released, he was going to go back and finish part 2, but had a lot of creative differences with the producers.
Yeah,
and he was trying to get one of the producers fired, but it kind of didn't work out, and they ended up firing him. So someone else, I forget the name of the guy who got director credit, he came in and finished the film. So about 20% of the film was actually the other director, but he got full director's credit. And they eventually did come out with the Donner cut about the time that Superman.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. I have the Donner cut of that Superman movie. I just couldn't remember which one it was. But but it's just like you said about Bill Murray. A lot of these creative types can be hard to work with. They have big personalities for a reason. That's why they're movie stars. It's kind of part of the course. That's why they have their no green M&Ms in my green room, or no brown M&Ms, whatever it may be. These types can be very particular, but that's part of the course. So you got to deal with it. But he's an essential director. He's one that he has left a mark on film and will be forever remembered. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Cora, how about you? Richard Donner, one of the great names, especially throughout the 80s. And into the 90s, not just with the Lethal Weapon.
I'm going to disagree with Tex a bit. To me, he's mid-range. He doesn't have that big of a resume that impresses me. Lady Hawk, fuck yes. But there's a lot of directors who did some really great stuff, but I don't know. I think he's all right. To me, he's mid-range, neutral, average, all good, but not anything I'm going to write home about.
Oh, I could write home about a lot of these movies. For one, he was not just a director on several movies and television shows. He did a movie that I think is one of Sylvester Stallone's most underrated movies, Assassins, with
never heard of it.
Mexican guy.
Never heard of that.
Antonio Banderas and Julianne Moore. I'm not going to lie. For being a relatively unknown film, it's actually quite good. The basic story is Sylvester Stallone is an assassin who is trying to get out of the business. Antonio Banderas is a young assassin trying to get into the business. Julianne Moore is kind of this person who just kind of caught in the middle of all this crazy shit. Antonio Banderas thinks the only way he could be number one is to kill the number one assassin in the world, who is Sylvester Stallone. And Sylvester Stallone's like, dude, I don't care if you're number one now. You can have it. I'm leaving. I got my money. I'm checked out, man. I'm on a beach. I got little drinks with umbrellas in them. I'm done. You can have it. But he doesn't see it that way. He says to himself, as long as this guy's alive, I'm never going to be number one. So that's kind of what drives that whole thing. It's actually it's a fun movie to watch. Look, not great dialogue. It's Sly Stallone.
It's a Sylvester Stallone movie. You're not going for dialogue.
Yeah,
he mumbles half of his lines.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Right. And then of course, Conspiracy Theory, Maverick, The Goonies. He directed The Goonies. Maverick was one of the best 80s films ever. He was also the executive producer. I know, I think Dr. Nick was saying in the chat, he was the executive producer on Lost Boys. He was the executive producer for 2 of the Tales from the Crypt movies, Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood. So there you go, Tex. Like I said, he has
Bordello of Blood is my favorite of the Tales of the Crypt movies. I love that movie. That is so much fun.
He was also the executive producer on Any Given Sunday. We just mentioned that movie recently. He was also the executive producer on X-Men, the first X-Men film in 2000, which until Marvel came along, was considered the best comic book film ever. That and Spider-Man were kind of like 1-2 on everybody's list. And it's still one of the better comic book films that has been made. Also, his company was the executive producer of, I think, all of the Wolverine films, including Logan, which we just discussed, as well as all of the X-Men films. I don't know that he had a direct role in any of them, but the Schuler Donner company that he started with his wife has actually been the production team behind all of the Wolverine films anyway. Not to mention, I mean, the guy's television. I mean, dude, he did his television real quick. I won't go back too far because a lot of stuff was in the 50s. But I mean, Route 66 and 61. That was one of the most popular TV shows in the early years of television. He did The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Gilligan's Island, Perry Mason, Get Smart. The Banana Split.
He's got a lineage, to say the least.
Yeah, the guy's been around for a while. Then as we get into the 70s, Kojak, The Streets of San Francisco, some of the more popular TV shows in the 70s. Then you get into the 80s and 90s. You got Tales from the Crypt, where he directed 3 episodes, was also an executive producer, got nominated for awards from that. Let's see. Again, a bunch of nominations and stuff. Then, look through his filmography. We've already talked about that. But he did that really kooky movie Timeline that my dad loved. I just thought it wasn't that great, but I mean, whatever. Maybe I'll revisit it again at some point. He was also the executive producer on, I think, the first 2 Free Willy movies. He was the executive producer on the John Candy movie Delirious, which is John Candy. John Candy is always fun. But yeah, I mean, the guy, look, you can't deny the impact that this guy has had on one of the most intriguing time periods of filmmaking in the 80s into the 90s. I mean, look, I throw out there, look, the Lethal Weapon series, Goonies, and the first Superman. If I tell you that this was a guy that did those, you look at yourself and be like, the guy's a Hall of Famer. I mean, those projects right there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's got
a lot of directors who've done some good stuff. I mean, I don't know. To me, he's mid-range. He's not. I don't know. Maybe I'm being harsh, but
when you think 80s action movies, the first Lethal Weapon easily is a top 3 answer. Well, I'm not talking about Die Hard. I'm talking about Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon, which also could, if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, so was Lethal Weapon, just saying. But that's not my point here. Okay. The Lethal Weapon is one of those 80s action films that arguably the best. I prefer it over Die Hard. I mean, you've got Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, the whole back and forth.
Never seen it.
You've never seen Lethal Weapon. You are out of your ever-loving mind. You need to go watch Lethal Weapon.
I don't know. I'm not into cop stuff. All right.
Well, it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. But, I mean, the original Superman, Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. You've got Christopher Reeve. I mean, is it – now, if you watch it today, it's very dated, especially the flying scenes and stuff. It is very, very dated. But what was that, 78, 79 when that came out or something? I can't remember. But, yeah, I knew it was somewhere in there. I mean, it's a product of its time. But, I mean, the Christopher Reeve Superman that he brought forward was so synonymous. I mean, they still make action figures of him today. And he was one of those horrible CGI cameos in DC's Flash movie that just came out. So the lineage of his Superman has never went away. So, I mean, he's got a pedigree to it. I'm not saying he's the greatest ever, but he is one of those guys that deserves mentioning. So.
Yeah, I don't know that he's in the conversation with Spielberg or Scorsese or anybody.
Oh God, no, no, I would not. No, there's no way.
Yeah, but you can't deny at all that. I mean, some of the movies some of the products he's been a part of are. I mean, look, The Omen. I mean, we haven't even discussed that a whole lot. The Omen, to many people, is one of the top 5 or 10 horror films ever made.
It's all for you, Damien. I love that movie.
Yeah, that some people hold that movie up there with The Exorcist. It's just great terror.
I think okay, it's not The Omen. Did not have the profoundness that Exorcist did. It didn't shock and scare people. But as far as scary kid movies go, or possessed kid movies go, The Omen is right there with Exorcist. I mean, of course, you've got Reagan over here. Damien and Reagan could be best friends. I mean, one is the son of the devil, and the other is just possessed by a random demon that works for her friend's dad, basically. It'd be a great team-up comedy movie. I would love to watch it. But, could you imagine Satan and Pazuzu banter back and forth? Your mother sucks cocks in hell, and just going back and forth and yada yada. That'd be amazing. But it's The Omen is good. It's the scene with the dog and the scene where the nurse or where the maid hangs herself specifically. Oh, and the scene where he kills his mother. That's also a good one.
You just said all these things that made me never want to watch this movie.
But it's all the scenes that make the movie great, ironically enough.
Just saying, it's The Omen is it. I don't think The Omen would ever make like a top 50 list all time, but it's one that you need to go see. Like if you're a horror fan, you need to watch that film.
It's one of the classics for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it needs to be seen if you're a legit horror fan.
But yeah, go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought of Richard Donner's career as a director. Again, I mean, this first Superman, Goonies. Who doesn't like the Goonies? The Lethal Weapon movies, and then Maverick. Of course, he directed that. Conspiracy Theory, another one of his movies. One of the better performances by Mel Gibson, I think, that kind of gets overlooked. But let us know in the comments below what you think of Richard Donner's career as a whole. Let's talk about the cast now. I mean, Bill Murray certainly carries this entire thing. It's all about his character, but surrounded by some really cool performances. I mean, Karen Allen, obviously fantastic, beautiful as ever in this movie. Then, of course, John Forsythe, the legend, Bobcat Goldthwait. Only a couple years removed. Only a couple years removed from the Police Academy stuff that made him famous. Carol Kane, one of the great comedians at the time. Robert Mitchum and John Forsythe, both legends. I'll go to you first, Cora. What do you think of the cast? And other than maybe Bill Murray, who do you think stood out to you the most?
Well, for me, I'm going to say Carol Kane, fucking, like you mentioned her, but loved her. And then also Jamie Farr. He was, Klinger from MASH. Everybody knew who the fuck he is. And Buddy Hackett. And also, I'm a fan of old movies, so Robert Mitchum is kind of dear to my heart. So, there's some people in there that really make the film well-rounded, and, there's a fan of somebody. What I'm trying to say is, if you're a fan of something, there's probably somebody in this movie. It's a very diverse cast from across television and movies and random entertainment across generations. So, in that way, there's somebody, in this movie that everybody would want to see. So I think it was good casting. Bobcat's hilarious. Alfre Woodard, fantastic.
I love Alfre Woodard.
Yeah.
I love her to death.
Yeah, she's always had a really good presence and good about getting into her character. And even John Glover, I've seen him in other things.
Yeah,
so.
that's what I was going to mention, John Glover. I'm a fan of that guy. I like him.
I would say it's a nice. How do you put it? It's like inviting like a nice diverse group of people to a cocktail party, because everybody's gonna have someone interesting to talk to. This cast is like that perfect cocktail party, troupe of sorts. So that's what I would say.
See, that's how you know if you're hoity-toity. If you have cocktail parties, you're like next level white person. Just so
I have cocktail parties.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's how you know you're like not like snooty, but you're like just right below. You're in the good side. Just like that. But no, obviously, Bill Murray. I mean, he's worth the price of admission alone. But Bobcat Goldthwait. I mean, that dude has one of those voices I want to hear, but after about 5 minutes, I want to like punch him in the throat and be like, "All right, stop talking for 10 minutes, and then you can talk again." Right? Like, could you imagine getting in an argument with that guy whenever he gets upset and his voice raises an octave higher? You couldn't listen to him without blowing an eardrum. It's
It
just
makes
one
you
of those.
wonder if it's a fake voice, and when he's not on air, or filming.
See, I don't think it is because he's been doing that voice for 30 years. Like he always has that voice. So either he's really committed to it, or it's real. One of the two. But no, I'm a big John Glover fan. I mean, I don't know if y'all watched the Smallville TV show about Superman that was on. Now it's the CW channel or whatever. But he played Lex Luthor's daddy, Lionel Luthor, on the show for almost all 10 seasons, I think.
Cool.
And he's just so cool on that show. And I mean, because he goes from like good guy, bad guy. I mean, it was a TV show that lasted 10 years. The character had to fluctuate. But who played the ghost of Christmas Past, the taxi cab driver? He was really fun in this movie.
It was Johansson's
David
name.
Johansson.
Yeah,
I liked him. He
Buster
besides
Poindexter
Bill
is what
Murray.
most people remember him by.
Okay, yeah, no. Besides that guy's look, like not just makeup. Like whenever you Google what the guy actually looks like, he has one of those interesting faces that catches your attention, and you kind of he has a very character actor kind of face going. And I thought he did very well in this as well. And yeah, very well casted. I'm not big on a lot of the holiday movies. I watch very few Christmas movies that are not horror related. I mean, you've heard the recommendations I've gave out this month, but there's a couple good guys in here. That's a good casting call.
Yeah, obviously Bill Murray kind of carries the film. It's all about the Ebenezer Scrooge character, and that's who he is. But for me, I mean, you can't have Ebenezer Scrooge without that one emotional weight that it kind of gets tied around him. In the book A Christmas Carol, it's Bob Cratchit. But rather than have that here, they have a love interest in Karen Allen who gives it that emotional weight that it shows you the duality of his character, because everybody's got an origin story. And you do get a glimpse of his origin story with the Ghost of Christmas Past, when Buster Poindexter, the taxi cab driver, takes him back to his childhood, but more specifically to this important moment where he's at a crossroads and he has to make a decision: do I want to chase my career, or do I want to make sure that I maintain my circle of friends? And he decides to chase his career, which isn't necessarily a wrong decision. It was a decision, but you never know how even the small decisions are going to impact your life moving forward.
This movie kind of seems like a cross between It's a Wonderful Life and Scrooge. Did you get that vibe too?
A little bit. There were some scenes that's kind of like the note that they were trying to hit. I think it was definitely more Christmas Carol than it was
Agreed.
A Wonderful Life. But there were a couple of notes like that. But yeah, by giving him a love interest instead of having just that one guy that worked for him. Because I think the Bob Cratchit character is kind of Alfre Woodard's character. Kind of, but not really. I think they definitely put a lot more focus on the love interest being Karen Allen. But I mean, so many great performances. I mean, John Forsythe, I mean, he looked really cool as a zombie version of himself from 1988.
Lou with the mouse and the golf ball in the back of his skull, like that shit's like, yeah.
Yeah, but Robert Mitchum again, Bobcat Goldthwait, the peak of his kind of fame after being Zed on the Police Academy movies. Again, Carol Kane, who at that point was already Saturday Night Live famous, great comedian in her own right, lots of movies and shit. Everybody did really play a really cool role. I did love the ghosts. I like the fact that they went funny for the first ghost, funny and kind of abusive for the second ghost, and the fourth ghost. I mean, I'll go to you, Tex. They really tap into the seedier, scarier, not necessarily horror, but much darker tones than the Ghost of Christmas Future. I mean, that's definitely something that they touched on in the original book, and they touched on in many iterations of this story. But I mean, the tone of the movie changes at that point very drastically. Do you think?
Oh, 100%. Like the creature work that they did for the ghosts, and each of them was distinctive. It felt very of its time, and that being the 80s was amazing. Like, this looks like something Spielberg came up with or something. Like, I don't know who did the makeup or possibly Henson or somebody. Like, you could tell whoever did this was really, really good at their craft. It's, I mean, when you think about Christmas, I mean, there's always been a spooky element to Christmas. I mean, from the Krampus tales to everything. I mean, the ghosts of Christmas. I mean, ghosts are right there. There's always been a horror element to it. It's just some people don't pick up on it. I mean, hell, for Christ's sakes, if you believe in Santa Claus, you let an old guy break into your house, eat your food, and leave once a year. That's horrific by itself. And I don't know where we all agreed to buy into this thing. I mean, just rearrange Santa's name. You make Satan. That's all. That's the only argument I need to go with. But yeah, there's always been a spooky, not horror element. That for it to be horror, it needs to be took to another level. But the spooky element is there, and I think that's what kind of interests, because you'll find a lot of horror people are big Christmas people too, because there's a lot of chemistry between those two elements in film and fandom, if you will. But yeah, no, the Ghost of Christmas Future or whatever. I love that robe design. It looked like death. Like if you were going to cast death in a movie, just take that costume because they did it perfectly. Like no work needed. Just dust it off and you're good to go.
I also really like the way that they didn't give him like a face, like a skull or anything like
Right.
that. It was the TV, and it was showing
Right.
like versions of like Murray with the skull overlay and just like static and stuff.
Yeah.
For one, because he's a TV executive, so it kind of fits. But for two, it doesn't really
Well,
give him an identity. He can be the fear of the person, the biggest fear of the person he's dealing with at that moment. You know what I mean?
the most generic masks are always the scariest. Just look at Michael Myers' mask. It's nothing. It's a pale, expressionless face. It's two eye holes in a mouth. That's all you get. And whatever your impressions are upon that is how scary you are. Look at the Ghostface mask. White Ghostface with a black rose. Very similar design to this. You know, the, when you can impart your own fear onto a death-like creature, it's more reflective of you, and therefore it becomes more scary, and that's what makes it so interesting. But yeah, it doesn't have to be hard to be scary. I mean, you just got to, it has to be good. That's the only thing that makes a difference.
Also, I do want to point out that I have been watching, a few episodes of Fall Guy recently, just because it's 80s and I love 80s TV. Lee Major is still looking great in 1988. I mean, he was probably about 60 something years old when this movie was shot, but I mean, yes, still rolling in there using the minigun, hanging out with Santa and Mrs. Claus, trying to save the North Pole. Yeah, that was a pretty fun opening scene too. But one of the cooler cameos. Cora mentioned like Jamie Farr and stuff. I almost feel kind of cheated. There were so many people that were in this on-screen production, the movie that was being filmed. Buddy Hackett and all that. You look at these guys and you're like, these guys are kind of legends all in their own right, but they weren't in the movie enough to really enjoy it. It's kind of the way that you'd want to. You understand because they're background players. They're part of this thing that's happening in the background. But at the same time, you kind of wish that you had a little bit more of them to enjoy because they really are fantastic to watch on screen. But I don't know. Go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought of the cast of Scrooge and who stood out to you. Again, just a fantastic cast overall. Now, let me ask you guys this. And I'll go to you first, Cora. Was this one of the better incarnations of A Christmas Carol? Because this is one story that's been done and redone and rehashed and reimagined 250,000 times since the book came out in 1843, especially on film. Where does this rank for you in the echelon of those things? Is this one of the better ones? Was it not so good because they made it modern and made him a TV executive? I don't know. What did you think of just the adaptation of the story?
I like the relatability. It seemed, I mean, they're dealing with, Scrooge in general, has a whole like variety of personalities and backstories, but this specific version really, I think it ties in people struggling. I think it's right up at the top. And I think it's really awesome that they didn't shy away from things that people don't like to talk about or look at. I mean, Claire being in a homeless shelter, Alfre Woodard's character, Grace, a woman supporting a family, not trying to, but the point is, it really seemed like more of a realistic version of Scrooge. And even Bill Murray's character, I mean, his hair was, I mean, half the movie, his hair is all, he's a normal person who's going through this experience and change, and all the people around him are affected, and he's affected by them. And you take the silliness out of it, the costuming out of it, and the funny 80s anecdotes that we reflect on looking back. This really is, in my opinion, a very good rendition of Scrooge. So it's right up there for me because of the relatability. So yeah.
Yeah, Tex, I know that you're not probably a connoisseur of all the different iterations of A Christmas Story, of A Christmas Carol, rather, but I don't know. You've probably seen this adapted in one or two different ways. I mean, because like I said, it's been done in a comedic aspect like this. I think it's even been done in the horror aspect in one or two occasions, at least kind of as a baseline with their plot. Where does this rate for you and all the ones that you've seen?
Taking the horror element out of it, there's a million different horror Christmas films. Just on a adaptation of A Christmas Carol, I thought this fit in the 80s perfectly. Like, you could have said this and Wall Street and American Psycho all exist within the same movie universe, and I would have bought it. The whole greed is good angle, like, this film was very reminiscent of that greed is good 80s mentality, the excess, the everything else that Bill Murray kind of perpetuates. I mean, he buys the cheap gifts for the poor people, but he gives his rich friends the expensive stuff. I mean, all the things that they do in this film. I thought this was perfect for the 80s period of what that time in America was. And I probably won't revisit another Christmas Carol movie ever again. But if I were to go back, I would say I would probably go to this rendition of it, just because I like the 80s time period, and it's a well done film with well done actors in it. So yeah, I would say non-horror wise, this would be the one I would go to for sure.
Yeah, like you, Tex, I have not seen every iteration of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. I read
Patrick
the book.
Stewart, in my opinion, is the best.
Yeah,
if you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all. Just saying. And I know that, how many different slasher movies do you need? Yada, yada. I know you could say the same argument for
it's
me.
It's about the individual performances. It's like we could see 75 different versions of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and each performance would do something different. Now, will there be one that stands out to us? Sure, and it would be the 74 version. But, I mean, it depends on what you bring to it. There was something about this that I thought was... I disagree that it was all about the greed is good thing. I don't think greed was the thing with the Frank Cross character. I think it was more ambition. Like, because he already has money. I mean, he's got a high-rise office in Manhattan, so he's doing okay.
Well, he left Claire behind because of his ambition, not because.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It was all about his desire to achieve a certain stature in his career and in his work, not necessarily to make more money. The money comes along with the stature in that business, to be honest.
I say the greed part only because of the whole gift thing, where he gave little to the poor, but he gave more to the rich people who could give him in return. That's where I say the greed is a factor within the plot line.
Well, remember, there's a side to his character that doesn't want to give something to someone that they haven't, quote, earned in his idea, and he wants people to pick themselves up because he's picked himself up and created his own success. So there is a mindset amongst, in my opinion, elitist mindsets that you don't give more than someone has earned, even if you're being generous. Like, there's a scale. Yeah, so in his mind, I would say him giving less than to the poor is being representative of what they deserve, and if they had done more, he would have given more. I don't know if that makes sense.
I get
it. The way I see it, though, is it was more of an excuse. It's like when she's going down the list of who's going to get the bath towel or who's going to get the VCR, he asks, what was the ratings on this show? And she goes, it was whatever. And then he goes, oh, bath towel. So it's really, because let's face it, he's in one of those industries, and we talk about how terrible the entertainment industry is to people all the time. About it's like who can help me achieve, not who is deserving. So he's not worried about those ratings because he wants that person to get better ratings. He wants that person to get better ratings because it's going to make him look better. It all feeds into his ambition, his desire to move up, because he's not the owner of this particular network or anything. He's just like the president. It's, John Forsythe, or Robert Mitchum's character, rather, sorry, that is the real boss. So that's why as soon as he walks in this door, he turns into a puppy dog real quick. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're looking great today. How you doing? Yeah, totally. And all this other bullshit gets hidden away. It's not till he turns his back and walks away that he turns into asshole Frank Cross again. So Yeah, like I said, I think it's more ambition than anything else. But whatever. I mean, it's. I like the fact that it's a different telling, because I mean, look, as much as I like what Cora mentioned, like the Patrick Stewart version, it's all very good performances.
It's dry and boring. Let's be honest.
Well, the performances can make something dry and boring,
right?
But
no,
when
no,
you
no,
get
I say the storyline to me, like this straight out of the novel, it's a little dry and boring, and this story kind of had more life to it.
It was also it was also very modern for the time. I like the fact that somebody in the review said that it may have been ahead of its time, because there's still that kind of idea as to who you have to be if you're an executive at something like a CBS or whatever, that you have to shit on the little people and praise the big people, because the big people are the ones that have the ability to push you farther up the ladder and to make you more important in the industry, in the space. So that has always existed in Hollywood, in film and television, since the beginning of the medium. So, and it exists now. Whether it's talked about now or not is different, but it exists now. So I think it was very real then. It's very real now. I think the only thing that could have made this movie a bit more real than that factor is there probably would have been a mirror covered in cocaine on his desk. I think they probably left that out because it's a Christmas movie and they wanted it to be a little bit more family friendly. So they're like, we're not going to have Frank Cross doing blow, so we're gonna leave that part out. That's the only thing that was not realistic about it. I'm pretty sure there'd be some cokeheads trying to make some movies at IBF or whatever the thing was.
Somebody needs to take this and do like a CGI cut of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho and just have him in the background walking, just listening to the Walkman and stuff. That would be tremendous. That would be great.
Cool. But yeah, I mean, where does this rank on all the adaptations? I mean, I don't know that it would necessarily be in the top 5 or 10. I think it's definitely a unique take on it, because it's like Cora said, you gotta give it's. Just being repetitious is one thing. Putting newer actors in it to try to make it big. I mean, you can put John Cena in one of these things and make him Bob Cratchit if you wanted to. But just because John Cena's popular and you want to draw off his name, knowing damn well that he wouldn't be any good in the role at all, you don't really care about the story.
Yeah, how's that working out with The Rock? It's not going too well lately.
Hey, you know what? I mean, look, he's been franchised Viagra in the past. I'm not saying he can't be franchised Viagra now, but
he's an entrepreneur now. Didn't he buy like the XFL and
The Rock?
Yeah.
The Rock was handily in pretty much killing DC movies with that crappy Black Adam movie. So just attaching a name to it doesn't really work like it used to. I'm not sure, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But I think it's a different take on this whole thing. Again, a little bit more modern for the time. I would say that it was probably ahead of its time. I do like the fact that they kind of embrace the darkness of the story, because the Christmas Carol story by Dickens is kind of a dark one if you think about it. Because you're taking this guy who's very much an asshole and you're trying to show him how he needs to be different. So you can't just be there. You can't just walk up to him and pat him on the back and be like, "Hey, buddy, can you change your ways?" Because somebody who's as misguided as the character of Ebenezer Scrooge is, he's gonna look at you and be like, "Dude, go piss off. Get away from me. Somebody get this poor person off of me," and then shoo them away and go on about his way. You have to take a more aggressive stance, and that's kind of what they did here. They embraced a little bit of the darkness of the story and just and gave it the comedic twist that it needed, because you have Bill Murray. You can't have Bill Murray be like totally serious all the time. He's got to have a couple of Bill Murray style one-liners in there. But I thought it was an interesting take on the whole thing. It's definitely better than just going through another period piece where he's walking around the snow and rattling chains and all that bullshit. But I thought it was pretty good. Definitely a modern telling that I agree. I think it has aged well, and it does feel a little more modern than most movies that came out in 1988. I mean, because there are some movies that came out like 10 years ago that feel dated. Like this movie, you can look at it and be like, yeah, I totally can see that guy existing in that way right now. But let's move on to a little bit of trivia now. I was actually really disappointed in the lack of good trivia that there was in this movie. I mean, coming out in 1988 and being like 100 years old, I figured there would be more stuff. There was
There's
a couple
some in the chat, by the way. JP put something in there.
Let's see. Yeah, I've already got that one. But
Oh, cool.
well, actually, I think I even mentioned it over the top. So yeah, it's got what did I say? As well as blah blah blah. Yeah, all of Murray's brothers. Yeah, 3 brothers: Brian, Johnny, and Joel were in there, along with the numerous cat.
Yeah,
It's actually not unheard of that Bill Murray works with his brother. I mean, in Caddyshack, his brother Brian Doyle Murray was the
I have
who
seen
played
that movie.
who played his dad in this movie in the flashback. Actually, plays the head caddy guy in Caddyshack. His brother has done mostly producing and writing, but he's been in a few things all on his own. Not only does he play his brother in this movie, he was in a movie called Moving Violations back in the day, which I think is one of the more underrated comedies of the 80s. But, we can talk about that some other time. But let's say, when Bill Murray was falling on his way out of the restaurant, that was unscripted and a genuine accident, as evidenced by the reaction of the actor playing the waiter and Murray's feet as he falls. Apparently, it was due to the stairs still being wet after splashing the waiter with water. That caused him to lose his footing.
Wow.
You know what? I remember watching it a couple of days ago, and I was just like, I feel like it was one of those things. Like, you remember the old Dick Van Dyke show? Like in the beginning,
where he trips over the ottoman.
It felt very staged like that, because I was looking at it and I was like, I feel like he's kind of kicking his foot over. But I mean, if it really was kind of a slip, then whatever. I mean, sometimes those accidents make great movie moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, half of the best, shots in films were stuff that they didn't mean to go that way. Sometimes they let an actor ad lib a line or whatever. If you just let magic happen, sometimes you catch it. It's just one of those things.
I think me and Jeremy mentioned it a while ago in the first Indiana Jones movie, when the scene where the guy's doing the whole thing with the swords and Harrison Ford just pulls out the gun and shoots him and turns around and walks away. The reason that scene went down the way it did is because Harrison Ford, I think, was fighting the flu when they filmed that day, and there was supposed to be like a long, drawn out fight thing, and Harrison Ford just didn't feel like doing it. So I guess with the camera rolling, he just kind of like pulled out the revolver and pulled the trigger, and they were just like, "That's actually kind of funny. That actually works really well." So they ended up leaving it in the movie. So he does this whole thing with the sword, and Harrison Ford pulls it, and goes bang, and then just turns and walks off.
That's one of the things. I mean, like, how they got Michael Myers' walk in Halloween. You had John Carpenter. He had, depending on which version of person was playing him in that particular scene, like, okay, well, how do you want me to walk? He said, just walk, just go. And he would just record people walking and just catch whatever looked good and throw it in the movie, just basically taking the best shot out of it. There's 1,000 different directors that have done this. They call cut maybe 10 seconds after they're supposed to, and maybe that magic comes out before or after, whatever it is. When you let natural charisma come out, it's lightning in a bottle. It's just the way that it works.
Yeah, when the Ghost of Christmas Present, played by Carol Kane, grabbed Bill Murray's lip in that one scene, she actually tore his lip. She tore it so badly that he was halted for several days while he healed.
Jesus. You took a beating on this movie. God.
I mean, the bitch hit him with a toaster. She was being abusive the whole time.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it stands to reason. I mean, look at the picture there. She's trying to poke his eyes out, for crying out loud. I mean, she was one of the most evil, abusive, ghosts of, Christmas Present.
Well, hey, he was playing fair by Three Stooges rules. Whenever you go this way, they're supposed to come at you with the 2 fingers, not 1. So she's cheating going by Three Stooges rules. That ain't right.
Let's see. The leader of the street musicians that was insulted by Bill Murray is Paul Schaefer, who was David Letterman's front man for a long time. Let's see.
That's who that was. I knew that face. I'm like, where do I know this guy from? I couldn't figure it out.
The other musicians that he insulted over the course of the movie were Miles Davis, David Sanborn, and Larry Carlton.
I didn't recognize any of them.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
It's like the Paul Schaefer one. The Paul Schaefer one makes sense. I mean, because even before the Letterman
but
kids.
Miles Davis,
Miles Davis. Come on. It's like one of the great ones. But let's see. When Frank was startled by the actor that he thought was the Ghost of Christmas Future. Where is that picture? I know I have it. Oh, goddamn, that's what I get for organizing pictures. There it is. When Frank is startled by an actor who he thinks is the ghost of Christmas Future, he elbows his secretary Grace in the face. That was actually real. Bill Murray actually did hit Alfre Woodard by mistake.
You know, watching this when I did, I'm like, I kind of want to go to that alternate universe where he was cast as Batman in 1989, just to see what that would have looked like. Right? Like, I've never really been curious about it until I watched this. I'm like, you know what? He might have been an okay Bruce Wayne Batman. Like, obviously we saw what Keaton did, but knowing that he was offered the role too, I don't know. It may not have been bad. Just saying. So, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I don't think he would have been dark enough. It's like he was dark in this movie, but he was comedic dark. I don't think he would have been dark enough to have played Tim Burton.
I don't know. I think it would be worth checking out. Like, I think Bill Murray has the potential. He wouldn't have been Michael Keaton, want to get nuts, let's get nuts. Like, he would have been his own version. But I would have liked to have seen that. I don't know. It's a shame we never got that. That would have been cool.
It could have been interesting. But let's see. The Sam Kinison was actually originally slated to play the part of the Ghost of Christmas Past. That would have been fucking phenomenal.
Kinison's the man, dude.
The part eventually went to David Johansen due to his friendship with Bill Murray.
Kinison's stand-up comedy to this day is hilarious. I don't know where you can find it. Probably here on YouTube or somewhere else. I'm sure. I don't know who owns the footage, but he had that nasty kind of just don't give a fuck kind of humor, and he just screamed to the microphone out of nowhere. It was great. Shock comedian, whatever you want to call him, Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison on Married with Children. If you haven't seen that, I think he plays Death or somebody. Oh my God, it's just so much fun.
Ironically enough, he plays a ghost for some reason, not like the Ghost of Christmas.
Yeah, he was a ghost, or
was he Al's guardian angel or something like that? It was. I forget.
He was. I don't, because I know whenever he showed up, it was like whenever Al was like Al got hit in the head and he almost died or something. He was like, he may have been a devil or an angel. I don't know. He was some kind of supernatural thing. But yeah, Sam Kinison on that Married with Children was amazing. Go find that as well. I love that show.
On television, he was all it has him listed here as a guest star. It doesn't actually say what he was in. But yeah, Sam Kinison was hilarious. Yeah, if you can find it, I have it on CD somewhere. I still have a bunch of CDs in a CD book. You guys remember those if you're as old as I am. I still have a CD book in my garage with a bunch of stuff. And one of them is a CD of Sam Kinison's stand-up. And when he talks about the art of performing oral stuff on a woman, that's some of the funniest shit I've ever heard. That is some of the funniest shit I've ever heard. Yeah, I know he was a bit gross, and yeah, he was, into the drugs and all that. But I mean,
that's what made.
He wasn't one of the funniest people ever.
He was a coked out little fat man that liked sex. That was his shtick. That was his gimmick. That's why you paid to see the guy. It was just one of those things. It was great. He was awesome.
Let's see. One of the special appearances in this movie was that of actor John Houseman. He actually died on October 31st, 1988, less than 1 month before this movie was released in theaters on November 23rd. And I thought I had a picture of him, but I did not. Yeah,
died on Halloween?
Yeah, for those of you who are as old as I am, who probably remember a movie called The Paper Chase and a TV show that he was in based on the movie that was in the early 80s. He was the British guy who was the narrator. Yeah, he a longtime theater and movie actor. He did a lot of stuff. Like I said, The Paper Chase is one of the great yuppie white people movies to come out of the late 70s. But it's a good movie. And Houseman, he actually had a bit of a comedic streak to him as well. He was in a few comedies later in his career. But really interesting to see him in that. And of course, him singing along at the end was kind of funny too. It's funny to think about what could have been. Bill Murray actually turned down the lead roles in Rain Man, Big, and Cocktail to make this film. All of those movies came out in 1988.
I could not see him in Rain Man or Cocktail.
Rain Man, maybe. Big, certainly. Although I think I
Big, yes.
I think I like
Big, yes, but the other two, no.
God, Cocktail, though, I don't know. That movie.
I don't think he's suave enough to pull off
Right.
the character. In Cocktail.
Assuming he played the role of the main bartender that Tom Cruise makes friends with.
Right.
I'm blanking the guy's name. Shit, I forget. But
Okay.
yeah, assuming he would have been playing that role, I don't think that would have worked.
I don't.
Now he's done some more dramatic stuff over the years. So I'm glad that. No, that's not the right one. Apparently, there was a 2012 film named Cocktail.
Don't remember that.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either. 1988 film. Let's see. Yeah, it was Brian Brown. That's who I'm thinking of. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on his name. But yeah, I feel like that was way too much of a dramatic role for Bill Murray to go into, especially at that stage in his career when he was, Ghostbusters and Meatballs and stuff like that. When he was known for like kind of the slapstick comedy, to go into a really dramatic role like that. I mean, but then again, we were just talking about Batman. It worked for Michael Keaton. So it's not now Michael Keaton wasn't as much a slapstick kind of comedian, but I don't know, whatever. Maybe it would have worked. I don't know.
I don't know. He did a good bit of slapstick in Mr. Mom. I mean, there's a whole lot of like sight gigs of, oh, look, I spilled peas all over me or whatever he spilled. I mean, there's a bit of that in there too. But I mean, who freaking knows? It's just one of those things.
True, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, Rain Man, I think he could have pulled it off. Big would have been fun, but I like what we ended up getting with Tom Hanks out of that movie. And Cocktail doesn't make any sense to me at all. But let's see. Here we go. All three of us are kind of like guns, and me and Tex are certainly going to get a kick out of this one. The sling-mounted GEM 134 minigun used by Lee Majors in the beginning of the movie was the same prop gun used by Jesse Ventura a year before in the movie Predator.
Wow. Holy crap. Okay. I need that prop gun. Like, if it was on the set of probably the manliest, most badass movie ever made, Predator, in the hands of Jesse Ventura, yeah, please and thank you. I don't know what prop house that's sitting in Hollywood right now, but it needs to be in my house. I need that.
Yeah, I would love to have that again. Cool. I was about to say, I know a lot of people who wouldn't leave their house if I had a minigun, but I don't think it would matter. The minigun would cut right through their house.
Well, I was going to say, depending on the caliber, you could shoot your neighbors from 3 houses away through the other houses. Yeah. You just keep firing until you get a clear path. Yeah, it's not that hard. You just have enough ammunition. That's all you really need. That's fine.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit lately about Roger Ebert and how he took some lumps over his critique of JFK. Movie critic Roger Ebert said that this was the worst film adaptation of A Christmas Carol he had ever seen.
All the more reason to love it.
Well, he said the same thing about Star Wars. He said the first Star Wars movie wasn't that good. And
yeah, whatever.
How that turned out.
Now, I'm not being egotistical on any level when I say that, but I kind of have a different outlook and respect for movie reviewers, seeing as what we do on here on a very much lower level. Like, our audience is way less than what theirs is. But it makes you question when you're watching something, and I'm sure y'all think the same thing. Like, okay, what do I think about this? Like, is my opinion going to change? Like, I know I've watched myself back on some things, and I'm like, well, actually, I would have said it this way, or I changed my mind. But now I'm recorded saying otherwise, so it is what it is. I get it. It's, opinions change. It's just, we just do it with our faces showing and voices going on the internet. So, I get it. It is what it is.
When Bill Murray tells Karen Allen that he must have eaten a bad clam or something, it's actually a reference to a line in A Christmas Carol, but with Scrooge telling Marley's ghost that he may have, quote, maybe an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, or a crumb of cheese, or a fragment of underdone potato. There's more gravy than of grave about you, whoever you are. That was actually kind of a change of a line from the original book. I never caught that when I was watching initially until I read this. I was just like, okay, I kind of get it, but whatever.
It's cool they tried to incorporate some of the literature.
Well, I mean, my thinking, I get the comparison when he says I may have just eaten a bad clam or something. I was like, why not say I may have it may just be an undigested bit of beef or some shit instead of going to a clam. It's too much of a diversion from the source material for me. If you're trying to make it a little Easter egg to the book,
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. VCRs. You guys remember those?
Yeah.
Let's see.
I still have one.
I want one. I need to get one.
I
Let's see.
ruined 2, messing up the tape.
I got one at Goodwill for like $3, and it works perfectly.
Well, you got a steal, to say the least. The excitement over a VCR as a Christmas present may seem odd today, but when this film was released, a typical VCR cost anywhere from $500 to $1,500. In 2022 money, that's somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000.
Yep.
Well, I can remember I was a kid whenever the first DVD VCR combo players came out. I'm sure y'all remember those as well. And me and my dad got in the truck and we drove to Circuit City. So it tells you how long ago this was, because that company doesn't exist anymore. And we got a satellite dish for our satellite television, and we got that DVD VCR combo. And we thought we were living in high cotton. I mean, we were just like, the kings of the trailer park, to use a redneck term. But I get it. It was one of those things.
Yeah, I remember Laserdisc. Do you remember those, Tex?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I never touched those.
I've never watched one, but I remember them. I've seen them, but I've never watched.
I don't think they lasted because they were so big. I mean, when you a disc,
they were very impractical.
How the fuck are you supposed to store that?
Yeah, my parents bought a Laserdisc player in 80 something. I don't remember what it was. It was 87 or 88. And the only 2 movies they ever owned on there were The Hunt for Red October and Major League, because Laserdisc eventually got replaced by DVDs. So and they have not had the Laserdisc player itself for more years than I could even remember. I don't even remember when they got rid of it. But last I checked, they still have the Laserdisc.
Well,
so there's a little history lesson for you kids. Before DVDs, they actually just had record-sized CDs that played that put movies on. There actually were several that were released.
Trusting kids to put those in without scratching them up. It's like.
And the funny thing is like, as big as they were, they still didn't have the storage space of what we'd eventually get on DVDs. So it's like, I remember for The Hunt for Red October, I remember we watched it several times when we had it. My dad would have to we watched half the movie, then my dad would have to go take the movie out, flip the disc over to watch the second half of the movie.
That is a pain. I remember sometimes getting movies on DVD. Or VHS, excuse me, and they came in a 2-pack, and you had to switch to the next tape for the second part, and it'd be like, please switch to part 2 on the next, tape. And I don't know.
I remember that.
I don't know. It kind of ruins the experience, but it's something you take for granted now. You don't have to worry about that shit.
Yeah, my copy of Pearl Harbor on DVD, I got this weird box set that has it's got like 3 or 4 DVDs, and it's got a lot of historical stuff in it, documentaries and stuff, behind the scenes stuff. But that one, the movie itself actually comes on 2 separate discs. So after the attack at Pearl Harbor happens, and John Voight makes the speech, the Day of Infamy speech, after he gets done making the speech, it actually fades out, and then it says insert disc 2 for the rest of the movie, and then you have to take that disc out, put disc 2 in to watch the rest of the movie. I think I have a couple of DVDs, actually. I don't remember exactly which ones, to where I actually have to take them out and turn them over.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of them.
I've had those.
A TV show, though.
I've had those where you had to flip the disc over, and then I've also I still have DVDs where you'll buy a collection of movies, where it'll be parts 1, 2, and 3 of a movie, and it'll be 2 discs. But one disc each side of the disc has a different movie on it. So I've seen that kind of version.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But, we talked about Caddyshack a little bit ago. Bill Murray actually declined to return as Carl Spackler in Caddyshack 2 in order to appear in this film. A wise career move on his part, as this movie was a box office hit, while Caddyshack 2 flopped. I will still tell you right now, I think Caddyshack 2 is plenty funny. Is it as good as the original Caddyshack? No, not even close. But is it funny?
I'm not sure I've seen Caddyshack.
Jackie Mason, Marsha Warfield.
It's about
golf.
Don't think
I've seen.
It's not very good.
Yeah,
I didn't even.
Caddyshack's funny. Caddyshack 2 is funny.
I'm not sure I knew there was a Caddyshack 2, if I'm being completely honest. Like, that's a thinker.
I'm not surprised.
But put that picture up that you just had of Bill Murray from the side view for a minute, please.
Well, I don't remember which one it was. Was it this one?
Shut. That's one of the greatest mullets I've ever seen in my life. That stands that deserves a standing ovation. That took some work to get that thing molded and shaped, and to keep that thing. That is a Tennessee top hat right there, buddy. That's like
What?
that. You never heard of that?
Top hat sounds like a nickname for like a sexual act.
No, a Tennessee top hat. No. Okay, I'm gonna have to educate you here in a minute. In redneck culture, you can get your denim tuxedo. This is one thing we share with the Canadians, where you have like the denim vest and the whole thing. Then a Tennessee top hat is a glorious Billy Ray Cyrus type mullet, where it's like puffy on top and it's got the waterfall that goes down. That's a Tennessee top hat. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm educated.
That is frightening. Is what that is.
Wow. I think. Yeah.
Hey, you laugh, but the mullet, it has been back for a while. They're all over Texas. I'm just jealous that I can't grow one. To be real honest with you, I'd have one. But you know,
well, you could
I'm
always get a
bald.
wig. Dolly Parton has worn wigs her whole.
Yeah, no, I'm not Dolly Parton or Joe Dirt. I can't do the wig thing.
All right, just saying there are options.
If we could all be Dolly Parton, goodness.
If I could be Dolly Parton, I would never have to leave the house.
Okay,
I'd be
I just
busy.
trying to think of
You know what I'm
somebody
saying?
who is known for wearing wigs. We're not talking about her hair. Well, technically we are.
I'm talking about her amazing talent at a lot of different levels. I'm not talking about anything.
Oh, she has great talents, and God bless her surgeon. That's all I'll say. But I want to meet him and shake his hand, because he's got to touch some glorious stuff.
I want her on Joe Rogan's podcast. I think that'd be one hell of a conversation.
What?
Just keep her. Just don't let Tony Romo anywhere near her, because that's like apparently his.
I don't think she would ever go anywhere where they go political. She doesn't talk about politics.
Well, I mean, she can not talk about it. Look, he doesn't just talk about politics. He talks about the career stuff too. I mean, I would just love.
Joe Rogan's a good podcast.
I thought he was a fuckface who spread a bunch of misinformation.
Oh Lord.
I don't know.
Calm down, Joe Biden. Calm down. It's okay. We're not ruffling your feathers. It's fine.
I'm just saying that's what I've heard about him. I've never watched his show, so I don't know.
Joe Rogan covers depending on who his guest is. Like, okay, Joe Rogan had The Undertaker on right after he retired.
The Undertaker
talked about wrestling for 3 hours.
Now, podcast was fantastic.
Whenever Joe Rogan had like Ted Nugent or Alex Jones, of course they're going to talk right-wing politics, because he goes with whatever his guest is. Whenever he had Elon Musk on a few weeks ago, they were talking about Tesla, this and that, Twitter and whatever.
So he's more of an interviewer than a podcaster about topics.
Yeah. He's a conversationalist. He's not even an interviewer.
Gotcha.
He even admits that half the time he doesn't even prepare for these things. He just talks. But you being the wrestling fan, he had Undertaker on there after Undertaker retired. That's a good one. He had Hulk Hogan on there 6 or 8 months ago.
Oh my God!
And he had Ric Flair. He had Jake the Snake Roberts on there a couple of years ago, right after the Resurrecting the Snake documentary came out.
Yeah.
He had Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake had a lot of really cool stories about like Andre the Giant and some of the like how he got into the business. I guess he used to drive Andre around, like in the early when he was first getting the WWE. He used to drive.
Andre was so big he didn't fit in the car. He had to sit in the back, and they would bring him a case of beer, and he would take like a regular sized can, and he could hide it in the palm of his hand. He'd drink a whole case without having to go to the bathroom. It was something else.
Yeah, that was the wrestler, and who is it? Tony Hinchcliffe, one of his comedian friends. I want to say it's Hinchcliffe, is a huge wrestling fan. So usually when he has the wrestlers on, Hinchcliffe is on with him too, and it's fun to watch Hinchcliffe kind of like fangirl out when he's talking about wrestling. It's like he literally he's like, "Oh, Ric Flair, tell me what it was like to wrestle in 1963."
Ric Flair is one of my favorites of all time.
I do love that he named all his kids after the cities they were born in. That's pretty cool.
If you ever want to have fun with Hulk Hogan on the Joe Rogan deal, just type in Hulk Hogan Lies Joe Rogan podcast. And there are YouTubers that just have all kinds of a field day with the tall tales that Hulk Hogan told on that podcast. It was freaking hilarious. So make sure
I think all those guys. I think all those wrestlers told some tales, though. I mean, the only one I would imagine was probably mostly honest was Undertaker, because I don't think.
Oh yeah, no. The Undertaker one is the best one wrestling wise I've ever seen. Like, there's no argument there. But
I really like the Jake the Snake one, though. I've actually watched that one a couple of times. That's really good.
I would love. Okay, Jake the Snake is a legend, but here's my problem. He's one of those guys. Yes, he was a drug addict, but he's a recovered guy now. So all he wants to talk about is, oh, well, I'm recovered, and whenever I did drugs, that's all that he knows to talk about anymore. And that gets old after 5 minutes. Jake Roberts has his own podcast, but after you listen to two of them, you don't need to listen to anything else, because all he talks about is old drug stories. It gets old very quick.
Well, there's probably a lot of old drug stories from that generation of wrestlers, though. Either steroids or, one of the multitude of other things they were doing.
No, I'm talking different kind of drugs.
Yeah, but I digress. But let's finish up talking Scrooge now that we got sidetracked. I wish I had the squirrel moment thing up there. We kind of went off on that.
Squirrel moment.
Yeah. Also, The Rock was just on Rogan a couple of months ago. So, yeah.
I don't like him. I don't trust him.
Oh no, they had a good talk.
Him? He's just an entertainer. He's not like a. He's not an advisor.
I don't know. I've done some digging on him, and he's a might bit leery. I'm just saying. Different podcast.
Everybody's got their tweaks.
Okay.
Everybody's got their tweaks. But let's go ahead and start to wrap things up now that I don't have more trivia than I wish I had. But I'll go to you first, Tex. Give me some of your final thoughts on 1988's Scrooge.
Like I started out with, it was a first-time watch for me. I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm not the biggest fan of most Christmas films, but I don't regret watching this. I'm glad that I did. Bill Murray was great as always. A lot of other good players. I like the creature designs. The makeup effects look good. Entertaining. Probably not something I'll revisit. Like, if I stumble upon it at Christmas time next year, I may give it a watch. But it was good. It was, it was as good as any other Christmas film that is for me. I'm not a big fan of the Christmas Carol story. Like, I'm good. I watched it whenever I was a kid, and I'm good. You know what I mean?
Lady Cora, how about you? Give me your final thoughts on Scrooge, starring Bill Murray.
I think it's great. I think if you have a choice of movies to see Bill Murray in, where he really is his optimal self, kind of, outside of Ghostbusters, this is one of them. And, I'm a fan of classical literature. So, Dickens' stories being told in the movies in adaptations like this is really fascinating to me. So, between those things and the fact that it's just a classic 80s film, and I love Christmas movies. Speaking of, I watched another one the other day. I watched Die Hard the other day. So, I love 80s Christmas movies. So, yeah.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Save that debate for New Year's. Save that debate for New Year's.
You cannot drop that at the end of a show, knowing if we get into that conversation, we're going to be here 3 more hours. And Frank has to go to bed, so he's not going to sit here. That is a cheater movie.
Christmas movies. I was speaking that
not
I watched
a Christmas
another
movie.
one this week. I didn't just drop it at the end of the show. It just is what it is, Tex.
Have we not had this discussion more times than we could possibly?
We can have it again. I am prepared to go all night. I will not concede either. We will go. I'm down.
Yeah, for me, it's like I am not a fan of Christmas at all. Really, I think it's an annoying holiday that I could do without. But I mean, the movies though, there aren't. Really, I'm not one of these people that will watch a Christmas movie in July. I'm not one of these people that will put on Miracle on 34th Street or It's a Wonderful Life and just watch it for the movie. It's got to be Christmas time for one of these movies to make sense to me to watch. So, this is one of the 2 movies that I can watch Christmas themed that I will watch any time of year. This and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which to me is another absolute classic.
Dinner's full.
Yeah, this movie is entertaining at so many levels. I mean, to say nothing about the base.
We should have reviewed that movie, damn it. I love that movie.
We'll probably do it next year. But, this is one of the movies that just for the sake of movies is just fun to watch. I mean, yeah, the base of this whole thing is A Christmas Carol, the whole Ebenezer Scrooge thing. But there's so many things about this movie that are I don't want to say not Christmassy. They kind of ring true all year long. You know what I mean? And Bill Murray is kind of awesome. Period. Karen Allen, awesome. Period. So many of the great actors in this are just awesome. Period. It's great just to see them on screen. So it's one of the few Christmas movies that I can watch year round. And I do occasionally, because I had this on DVD, actually. I do occasionally look at it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and watch this. It's a Saturday in July, and I don't feel like mowing the yard. I'm going to sit here and watch the movie instead. Pop in Scrooged, or pop in, we'll do the double feature for Christmas and watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Oh, sorry, the Grinch That Stole Christmas, the Ron Howard version with Jim Carrey. I could probably watch that pretty regularly as well. I think it's a fun movie. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the few Christmas movies that I'll kind of watch whenever, just when I want to see something good. So yeah, it's way ahead of its time. It's very funny. It's probably peak Bill Murray, because I feel like it's when you get into the 90s that he started to get away from the kind of the kind of comedy that he did in like this, Stripes, Ghostbusters, things like that.
Was awful.
Yeah, it's when he tried to get out of his niche and kind of do different things, which I totally respect guys for doing, because I wouldn't want to be pigeonholed into playing the same character all the time either. But at the same time, it's like that's when he started to become a little less funny. Maybe it's because he had grown into the Bill Murray persona, and he started to do whatever.
Doesn't he grow pot now? Like is a pot
everybody
farmer?
grows pot now. Everybody goes pot.
No,
now.
like
Mike Tyson's growing pot.
No, I mean, like, it seems like there's something about him. I don't know. I could be wrong.
That's actually one of the things that Ric Flair was talking about. He's actually got his own line of edibles now. He was talking about that on Joe Rogan's podcast a while back.
I think
Ric Flair has an energy drink. He has chicken wings. He doesn't actually have these things. He just licenses out his name and likeness and slaps it on a product because he needs the money.
Same thing.
Yeah, that's all it does.
When you have that many ex-wives, I can't blame him.
Right.
True.
Right.
JSP says peak Bill Murray was Groundhog Day. I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Oh,
I would say early 90s. Yeah, early 90s. I'd go with that.
I got to say Ghostbusters. I think Venkman is peak, man. Now, Groundhog Day would be 2, Ghostbusters 1.
Let me see.
If I were voting, I would go Ghostbusters, Groundhog Day, and then honestly 3, Zombieland. Like, I mean, he had a small portion in that film, but how and what he does in that movie is amazing. I love him in Zombieland.
Okay, I'm looking through some of these. Meatballs, one of his first movies, is good.
What is that about? Meatballs?
It was one of those late 70s, early 80s kind of.
Stripes too.
Where there was Jello wrestling and the
Stripes is another good Bill Murray one.
Stripes is a great movie.
Oh,
yeah.
No modern woman should watch that movie. Like,
and then Ghostbusters.
Oh, good.
He had a small.
Calm down, Hillary. You'll be fine.
He had a small role in Little Shop of Horrors. Let's see, Ghostbusters 2. What about Bob? Groundhog Day. He was good in Kingpin. I'll give you Kingpin. That was 96.
I was going to say, he wasn't in, what's the movie Jeff Bridges where he's dressed in the robe that he's all famous for from the 90s? He's not in that one.
He wasn't in. Yeah, he wasn't in that. Let's see, Charlie's Angels 2000. He was the first one to play Bosley in the first movie. That was, I don't know, whatever. He didn't carry that movie.
I totally forgot he was in that.
Let's see, Royal Tannenbaums. God, see, that's when he tried to get away from that stuff.
I love that movie.
God, I haven't seen that movie in so long. I may have to watch it again just to remember if I like it or not. And then immediately behind that, he does Lost in Translation. Not, whatever. And then the Garfield movies, which were not great. Let's see.
He needs to hurry up and get New Year's so I can preach to y'all what a Christmas movie is or what isn't. Because now JSP is on y'all's side.
You're going to be too busy to join us, so I guess I'll win. Thank you.
No, I'll be here for part of it, not all of it.
You might have to be gone for the part when we have this debate, so it's okay.
He was actually in The Monuments Men, which is actually not a bad movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not.
I've heard
Monuments Men?
Yeah, it's about this group. It's about this group of military guys that went into Europe after World War II to try to inventory and find all the art that Hitler and the Nazis stole. And he plays a role in that. And
I've never seen that.
It's not one of the bigger movies to come out.
A lot of art in
But
and
it's
really
actually a really good
important
movie.
artifacts.
I remember liking that a lot. And then, of course, whatever. Okay, he was kind of funny in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but whatever. Ghostbusters Afterlife. I mean, yeah, he was a cameo. He's supposed to have
Ant-Man 3 was so bad, I blipped that out of my brain. I forgot that even happened. I forgot he was even in that.
Am I missing
Don't.
anything?
It's horrible. It's a CGI mess from Marvel that is horrible. Don't watch it.
All right.
It is not worth sitting there.
Well,
yeah, it was a glorified cameo. He wasn't. I mean, for his part, he was kind of funny in it, but it wasn't enough to save that movie. Not by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
And I've heard that he's supposed to have a bigger role in Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. That all three of them are supposed to be.
Can they
more
just
than
stop making Ghostbusters movies and let them just?
No. I love Ghostbusters Afterlife. I thought that movie was great.
I
haven't seen it because I heard it was not good.
It's a love letter to Harold Ramis. That's what the entire movie.
I thought that initially too, but when it first came out, I loved it. Every time after that I watched it, I've seen it 3 or 4 times since then. It's nostalgia cash grab to me. I have more eye rolling moments than that's sweet that they did that moment. But I don't know. That's just me.
It was good nostalgia. It was nostalgia done right.
Is this the one where the kids are involved?
Yes.
It was Stranger Things Ghostbusters.
Okay.
It's actually quite entertaining. It's entertaining.
Since Jeremy's not here, I'm going to borrow his term. Wait, hang on. Horns. So here you go, Jeremy. I got your horns up. So it was Stranger Things Ghostbusters is what it was. But,
I thought it was a lot of fun. I was actually kind of worried if I was like, it's a movie.
Kids, or is it just have kids in it?
It just had kids in it, really.
It's geared for, they're going for the younger market, but it's still okay for like us, the older original Ghostbuster fan. It's one the whole family can go to. Like, it's one of those kind of things.
All right.
It's on, I think right now it's on Hulu.
Oh,
I don't know what it's on.
I think I bought it. I just never watched it.
How do you buy a movie and not watch it?
I do this thing on Amazon because my credit card gives me free Amazon dollars. And when there's only like a few dollars left over, I'll go to Amazon Prime and buy a movie and just have it in my library. And I don't necessarily get to watching it.
That's cool.
I
don't buy Amazon movies. I buy.
Well, I'm not paying for them tax. I just use my free money.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now apparently it's only on Apple TV to rent.
I don't even have an Amazon account. I don't think
it's got to be.
I haven't used it in forever. I don't know. I have to double check.
It's somewhere else. I know I saw it not too long ago. I don't know where it's at, but I'll figure that out. But I think Scrooged is a really fun movie. You guys should give it a watch. It's that time of year. Make it a part of what you're going to watch over the course of the next week or so. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Again, it's a really fun movie. It's fun 80s. It makes fun of the decade of decadence that the 80s was, this decade of excess and all that. It does play into that. It's a really funny movie. And it's
movie where people aren't on their cell phones all the time. I really dig that about movies from back in the day. Just saying. Yeah,
I just actually last night sat and watched Violent Night, since we'll be doing that on Thursday. And they do make fun of that quite a bit over the film, especially with Edie Patterson's son, that character, him being the influencer, which I thought was pretty funny. they make fun of him and show just how stupid that whole thing is. But
so hang on a minute. If they remade this today, instead of being an 80s TV guy, would he be like a YouTuber / social influencer, like a Logan Paul or something? Would that be like the modern telling of this movie?
Probably, but I don't think it would be good.
Oh, I'm not saying it'd be good. I'm just saying, like, that would feel like a natural fit, like somebody who's a TikToker or a YouTuber or some nonsense or whatever. Feels like a natural fit for a 2023 version. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that it would work the same way that it worked in this movie, but because technology does kind of change the landscape of what your characters are. So I mean, you'd have to imagine that Bill Murray, that his character, rather, Frank Cross, would have had a totally up to date, totally modern iPhone. So that would have changed. I mean, so that would add the question: why didn't he just call this person on his cell phone? And it just changes the way.
Well, technology completely changes. I mean, look at every scary movie now. Now they have to add in a line of, oh, we don't have signal here. Oh, my battery died. Just so there's not cell phones are horrible for horror because it takes so much punch out of it.
They should set them in the 80s or 90s then or something.
Yeah, seriously, put it before they existed. Then you don't have to explain it away.
It's cheaper to procure cars from then too than trying to get new cars in the film. And
just go to the junkyard. That's where they're all at. Just pick them out. And you get them for $1.
Damn right. But go to the comments below. Let us know what you guys thought of Scrooged, the 1988 comedy starring Bill Murray. And thanks to my amazing co-host for coming and hanging out with me tonight. As always, again, Jeremy unable to make it tonight, but we're looking forward to having him back on Thursday as we break down Violent Night. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Special thanks to the Dowager Countess Lady Cora. Where can the folks at home find you on the internet, ma'am?
On your show, I'm allergic to the internet and social media.
Probably better off, in all honesty. I honestly, the only reason I'm even on Facebook or Twitter anymore at this point is just to plug.
I'm only on Twitter for your DM for this show. So... Yeah.
Pretty
much. And of course, the shape of Lone Star State, the man most likely to be hit by a cancer. My man Tex, what's up, brother?
Well, hey, if ghosts want to come visit me, I'll welcome it. Hey, let's hang out, go spook some people. I'm down. But no, yeah, the movie recommendation for tonight. This one I've been waiting to do closer to Christmas. It's a film from 2015. It's made by the producers of Trick or Treat from 2009. It's in the same canon as that film, but this is the Christmas movie they made, the Krampus film from 2015. It is an amazing watch. It's probably, I'd say, top 3 versions of Krampus, versions of that character for me. A lot of fun to watch. There's even a trick or treat Easter egg, so pay attention when you're watching the film. But I believe it's on Tubi or something. I'll just Google where it's at. You'll find it. I'm not sure exactly. But go check out Krampus. It's a lot of fun to watch.
As for me, you can find me back here hopefully tomorrow talking some football with Tex and possibly Marcus. Maybe.
I can't wait.
Yeah, big week in the NFL. Boy, I mean, we were talking about that crowd at the top of the NFC. Little bit of sunlight just opened up between the Niners and the rest of the NFC. We're gonna talk about that a little bit. A couple of more injuries to talk about. Boy, it's been a tough last 6 weeks for a lot of NFL stars. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers changing his mind and deciding, well, my team sucks, so I won't bother coming back this year at all.
Ow! I'm hurt again. I can't play, guys. Sorry. Ow!
Maybe he should just go work for ESPN already.
I never told you guys I was gonna come back this year. I just said I was gonna try.
Biggest douche in football.
That dude's such a liar. God, he's a liar.
Let us on with that one, Aaron. I'm sorry. I try to take your side, but this one, I'm gonna shit on you.
But you know what, though? I'll say this about Aaron Rodgers. I think he's a total douche on a personal level, but in a professional capacity, he has worked very hard, and he's played quarterback longer than most people ever have. And I respect his drive to keep playing in an atmosphere that is full of young men. So, I can say that about him.
We need to have Cora on the football show. I would love to get her take on football things. That would be great. We need Cora on there one time.
Well, she could fill in for Marcus, who doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about.
You watch The Bachelor
there we go.
on the football show. There we go. We'll make a deal.
Yeah. There you go.
And you can find us back here, of course, on Thursday. The whole crew will hopefully be here to talk about Violent Night, one of the surprise films of last year. I mean, much like Cocaine Bear or Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, nobody saw this movie coming. Nobody saw this movie coming.
Love Cocaine Bear.
I mean, I don't know what made David Harbour even want to sign on to this, but I mean, it ended up having some pretty awesome talent in it. I mean, John Leguizamo, it had Beverly D'Angelo in it, but it ended up being one of the surprise successes of of 2022. So we're going to talk about that on Thursday night. So come join us as we talk about Violent Night. You can actually go watch that I think it's on Amazon Prime as well as one of the other streamers right now. So you can watch that with a subscription to those. And don't forget that we're also going to be here New Year's Eve. The charity stream that I promise you guys is going to happen on New Year's Eve. It's going to be a long stream on New Year's Eve. So come help us support the Abandoned Pet Project on New Year's Eve. Any donation that comes in, we're going to throw it right over to the Abandoned Pet Project. We'll see if we can raise a couple $100 for them. They help get animals that are in shelters that are close to being euthanized. They help rescue them. They get them back to health and help them find forever homes with people that will care for them and not douchebags that abandon them, like what happens to so many animals over the course of the last couple of years. So come join us on New Year's Eve as we do our fundraiser for the Abandoned Pet Project. And thank you all for coming out. We very much appreciate it. We will see you guys Thursday as we break down Violent Night, and tomorrow to talk football. Thanks to my amazing coach for being so wonderful. Jeremy, we'll see him Thursday. Until next time, adios. And don't let bitches eat with toaster.
Why are you watching YouTube right now?
Well, because we're on. That's why.
Well, of course. I had to throw out the little, Easter egg for the TV line. I enjoyed that line. That was